Bonsoir à tous et bienvenue à notre webinaire sur les études en Écosse. Merci de prendre le temps de nous écouter alors qu'il fait super chaud dehors. On est tous en train de mourir, mais vous êtes courageux et puis on va peut-être vous rafraîchir un petit peu les idées du coup avec cette destination nordique relativement voilà, au nord du Royaume-Uni. Je m'appelle Marc, je suis le directeur de Study Expérience que vous allez voir dans un instant. Donc, si vous connaissez pas, c'est un organisme qui accompagne les étudiants qui souhaitent intégrer les universités étrangères. Et puis, du coup, j'ai le plaisir d'être accompagné ce soir par Fionn Bailey, qui nous vient donc de l'université de St Andrews en Écosse et qui surtout animera ce webinaire ce soir. Elle nous parlera du système écossais de manière assez générale et puis elle fera un zoom évidemment aussi sur son université donc de St Andrews. Euh, voilà, je vais partager du coup mon écran. Si vous avez des questions tout au long de ce webinaire, n'hésitez pas à les poser dans l'onglet questions-réponses en bas de votre écran. Euh, Et puis, on prévoit aussi quand même un temps à la fin pour répondre à toutes vos questions. Voilà. Et je précise aussi que Fionn est anglophone. Elle fera sa présentation du coup en anglais. Fionn, I think you'll be in English, right? Your presentation. Donc, c'est un bon exercice aussi pour affûter vos oreilles, vous habituer un petit peu à la langue anglaise. Son accent écossais est tout à fait maîtrisé et compréhensible, donc vous inquiétez pas. Et puis s'il y a des choses que vous comprenez pas, évidemment, n'hésitez pas à poser des questions dans le chat et puis je serai à disposition pour répondre à toutes vos questions tout au long du webinaire. Euh, voilà. Donc, au programme ce soir, deux parties, donc assurées par Fionn, une partie sur les études en Écosse de manière générale, à tous les niveaux. D'ailleurs, on parlera des possibilités post-bac et aussi du niveau master pour ceux qui sont intéressés par ces parcours-là. Et puis, donc, du coup, un zoom aussi sur l'université de St Andrews, qui est tout simplement la meilleure université en Écosse, l'une des meilleures universités au monde aussi. L'an dernier, je pense qu'elle était classée numéro 1 au Royaume-Uni, devant notamment Oxford et Cambridge. Donc, on parle vraiment d'un poids lourd de l'enseignement supérieur à échelle mondiale. Donc voilà, c'est un vrai plaisir de les avoir avec nous aujourd'hui et pouvoir en savoir un petit peu plus sur le contenu de leur programme et les conditions d'accès qui parfois sont un petit peu mystérieuses dans des universités de très grande qualité comme celle-ci. Euh, Rapidement, pour vous présenter un petit peu plus Study Expérience, si vous ne connaissez pas. Donc, c'est un organisme de conseil spécialisé sur les études à l'étranger. Notre rôle consiste à accompagner les étudiants dans un premier temps sur leur choix de programme et de filière à l'international. On vous aide en fonction du dossier que vous avez, du projet que vous avez, du budget, des envies. En fonction de toutes ces choses-là, on vous aide à cibler les universités, les programmes, et puis on vous accompagne ensuite dans toutes les étapes qui se succèdent jusqu'à votre départ et à votre arrivée sur place. Donc, on parle ici des procédures administratives, des lettres de motivation. Ça peut être de la préparation aux tests d'anglais ou des tests de compétences. Euh, Toutes sortes de choses, voilà. Et donc, c'est un package global qu'on propose aux étudiants qui s'intéressent aux études à l'étranger. On existe depuis un bon bout de temps maintenant. Ça fait à peu près 15 ans que Study Expérience opère sur le marché français. Euh, on a de nombreux conseillers, souvent spécialisés un petit peu par destination, qui sont à votre disposition pour vous aider tout au long du process. On a énormément d'accréditations, dont certaines que vous connaissez peut-être, comme le British Council. Je pense qu'en principe, les gens connaissent, d'autres qui sont un petit peu plus obscurs, mais qui viennent quand même sanctionner un certain niveau de qualité au niveau des conseils et puis au niveau de l'éthique aussi des services qu'on propose. Voilà. Une autre particularité de Studio Experience, c'est qu'on travaille avec beaucoup d'universités qui sont, on les appelle nos universités partenaires. St Andrews, ici présente, en fait partie. Et pour ces universités, on facilite tout simplement le recrutement des étudiants. Donc, on vous accompagne dans les process avec des conditions plutôt avantageuses. Euh, comme vous pouvez le voir ici, pour vous décrire rapidement notre approche, on travaille en 2 temps, avec une première phase axée sur la recherche d'établissement, qu'on appelle le bilan recherche et stratégie, qui coûte 350 €. Donc l'objectif de cette première phase, c'est d'aller vraiment cibler les universités, les programmes qui vous correspondent. Et puis la deuxième phase, l'étape 2, c'est l'accompagnement, le coaching à proprement parler, qui lui est gratuit, enfin du moins sans surcoût, quand vous postulez dans nos universités partenaires, donc comme par exemple St Andrews ou d'autres. Et puis on peut aussi vous aider sur d'autres universités, donc non partenaires, auquel cas on vous adresse un devis sur mesure, qui est totalement variable en fonction du nombre d'établissements que vous présentez et de la complexité des dossiers. Donc voilà un petit peu pour la page pub. Peut-être avant de laisser la parole à Fion, je voulais mettre en avant quelques dates importantes à garder en tête pour l'Écosse, si vous envisagez cette destination pour l'année prochaine, et pour que vous ayez du coup conscience des différentes étapes à franchir et de quand commencer à vous activer, on va dire. Les dossiers au niveau post-bac pour l'Écosse, et donc notamment pour St Andrews, sont à soumettre avant le 31 janvier 2024 via une plateforme qu'on appelle UCAS, sauf pour tout ce qui est médecine, dentaire, vétérinaire. Si jamais vous avez un projet de ce type-là, la date limite va arriver très vite. Là, pour le coup, c'est le 16 octobre 2023. Donc, ouais, ça arrive très vite. Il faudra se dépêcher si c'est quelque chose que vous envisagez. Et sachez qu'au niveau master, il n'y a pas vraiment de date limite, mais on incite quand même les étudiants de s'y prendre assez tôt pour pouvoir faire les choses sereinement avec le moins de stress possible. Et puis, plus on postule tôt, généralement, quand même, plus on a de chances d'être admis dans les programmes ciblés. Voilà. Donc maintenant, c'est un bon moment éventuellement si vous vouliez être accompagné sur le choix des universités. C'est vrai que c'est souvent à cette période de l'année que ça se joue. Donc voilà, si intéressé, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter. Et puis, dernier point avant de laisser la parole à Fion, je voulais rappeler qu'on organise des salons ce mois-ci, donc le 23 septembre à Paris, le 27 septembre à Vannes et le 30 septembre à Bruxelles. Le salon Elevate, donc, qui réunit beaucoup d'universités, dont par exemple St Andrews. Si vous vouliez les rencontrer, ils seront présents, je crois, à Bruxelles spécifiquement. Je ne suis pas sûr qu'ils fassent les autres. On a d'autres universités, notamment Cambridge, qui participent aussi, des universités canadiennes, espagnoles, d'autres universités britanniques. Il y en a pas mal qui viennent. Donc, c'est l'opportunité de venir les rencontrer. Et puis, on organise pendant ce salon aussi pas mal de rencontres avec des conseillers et des conférences et ateliers qui se veulent plutôt utiles et enrichissants. Et voilà, la différence peut-être d'autres salons qui sont parfois un petit peu marketing dans leur approche. On voulait apporter quelque chose de plus constructif et d'utile pour les étudiants. Voilà. Puis c'est repartir avec quelque chose de concret. Voilà, c'est tout pour moi. Fion, I'm going to let you take the reins. Donc voilà, comme je l'ai précisé, si vous avez des questions à tout moment, n'hésitez pas dans le chat. Je suis présent et je vous réponds en direct. Et puis si vous préférez poser les questions de vive voix à la fin, on prévoit un temps pour ça aussi. Voilà. Merci beaucoup. Thanks, Fion.
Okay, merci Mark. Bonsoir à tous. My name's Fion. It's lovely to meet you all today. I'm the regional manager for Europe at the University of St Andrews, as Mark said. And I'm going to be taking a little bit of time this evening to introduce you to studying in Scotland and then specifically the University of St Andrews. So as Mark said, if you've got any questions, please just pop them in the chat and we'll make sure that we answer them during the session today. You've also got my email address on this slide. So if you would like to contact me afterwards, you're very welcome to do so. And Mark and his colleagues at Study Experience are also happy to help you with any questions about St Andrews. But without any further ado, let's get started. So there are a number of universities in Scotland, and this slide here highlights all of them. So welcome to Scotland. We do have lots of universities for a relatively small country. You might be surprised to see all of these. For example, in Edinburgh, you can see that there is the University of Edinburgh, there's Edinburgh Napier, there's Heriot Watt, there's Queen Margaret, so there's 4 universities there. There are a number located in Glasgow as well. There are two biggest cities. Glasgow is in fact the biggest city in Scotland. You've also got a number of universities on the East Coast, including St Andrews, Dundee, Abertay, and as you go further north, you'll find Aberdeen, and then at the very top, the most northern university is the University of the Highlands and Islands. And when you're choosing which university to go to, of course, one of them is the location, the other is courses, the life at that university, but I just wanted to highlight here the variety that we have got for you to research. Now, as I was saying, lots of different options for Scottish universities. You've got the ancient universities, which were established just under 600 years ago. These are St Andrews, Aberdeen, Glasgow, and Edinburgh. You've also got traditional universities. They may have been educational establishments for a couple of hundred years, and then became universities in their own right in the 1960s. And then you've got more modern universities as well, sort of became universities in the 1990s. So lots of different places, lots of different courses across them. Now, a lot of Scottish universities are ranked very highly. You'll find a number of us in the QS World Rankings in the top 100. And you will also see us ranked highly for student satisfaction in the UK. So if you are interested in rankings, I'll talk a little bit more about that again later. But I first just wanted to highlight, as I say, the variety of places that you can look at studying. I also wanted to highlight the 4-year undergraduate degree structure because it's a little bit different in Scotland compared to the rest of the UK. Now, I'm going to touch on this more in a few slides' time, but generally speaking, Scottish universities provide 4-year undergraduate degrees, whereas in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you would find 3-year degrees. Now, this allows students to cover breadth of subjects. It allows them to pick up different subjects as well as what they've actually applied for. So there's a lot of great things that you can get from this. And we do often find employers specifically are looking for students who have had this degree structure because they've had longer to explore their subject. They have also been able to pick up other transferable skills through their studies. And they've been able to have a very broad education and introduction to university education. So there's a lot of great benefits of this, and I'll talk more about that later as well. And then, of course, we've got a number of different subjects, and it's really about finding the one that's best for you. There are accredited professional and vocational degrees, and lots of other academic subjects. So we've got, some universities have got medicine, dentistry, law, physiotherapy, just to name some of those different degrees. But I'll touch more on that later as well, and specifically about St Andrews. And I should mention some of the photos in this slideshow are not St Andrews specifically. So I've included some from different Scottish universities. But I'm now going to talk specifically about us. So a brief introduction to St Andrews. This is a photo of part of our town and campus because the university is integrated into the town of St Andrews. So you're able to go between all the different academic buildings relatively quickly, because it is all really in one space. So you're able to walk between all the buildings. You'll pass coffee shops and cafes, the local theatre, cinema, and all your academic buildings in the same part of town. Now, the university is just over 10,000 in terms of student population. So it's not the biggest university. We call it a medium size. And it does allow you, I would say, to settle in quite quickly to become part of the student community. We do have a very international student community. So 42% of our undergraduate students are from outside the UK. About 63% of our postgraduate students are from outside the UK. So you certainly would not be the only one coming from France or coming from outside the UK if you did join us in St Andrews. And I think the community and the kind of feeling of being quite at home in St Andrews is one of the things that I certainly enjoyed when I was there. And a lot of students tell me that as well, as opposed to being in a larger city. So it's all about finding the best fit for you. We are the oldest university in Scotland, so you'll see in the next slide lots of historic buildings. We've got an old cathedral and castle, and a lot of the university buildings themselves have got lots of traditions and history to them too. Now, I said I would come back to rankings. So if you are interested in rankings, you'll see that we are in the world's top 100, according to QS World Rankings this year, as we have been in previous years as well. We're also first in the UK, according to the Guardian University Guide, which measures subjects by student satisfaction, entry grades, graduate outcomes, and several of our academic schools also rank best in the UK for specific subjects in that guide as well. But maybe the most important one to highlight is that we're first for student academic experience, because that is based on the National Student Survey, which is voted for by students themselves. So that's their voice coming through to tell us that they are satisfied and happy with their experience at the university, which is what it's all about. So I'm really happy to share that with you. Something else I wanted to highlight before I move on is career prospects, because especially at Scottish universities, there are very high rates of graduate employment soon after graduating. Some people will go into further study, and you can see the stat here for St Andrews specifically of those going into work or further study. But we do have a great career centre that will help you, whether you want to return to France or another country, or if you want to stay in the UK after graduating to work there. So there are different options that we can help you to explore. I'm going to move on as well, but before I do, of course, I'll talk more about teaching later, but it really is top quality teaching that we have. All of our courses, all of our subjects are designed by our academics who really are at the forefront of their subjects. So we do have research-led teaching, and we've got great academics in quite small size classes so that you can get to know them and their work very well. This slide here is an aerial shot of St Andrews. So I mentioned earlier that you will see some old sites, some historic buildings in St Andrews. So hopefully you can see some of that there. We've got the castle and the cathedral in the forefront. You've got 3 beaches. We are on the east coast of Scotland, so you've got water sports that students can get involved in. Many of them were swimming at the weekend. We're having beautiful weather at the moment, and many of them were actually having a little swim this week, which was great to see. But in this part of town that you can see on this slide here, there are lots of academic buildings. So the science buildings, the library, study spaces, as well as local shops and restaurants and things like that. So everything is quite compact, which I really liked when I was studying there. I'm going to move on now and talk again about Scotland in general and why you might decide to study in Scotland. And what do you think of when you think about Scotland? I know some people think of mountains, they think of nature, they think of Highland cows, they maybe think of food. So there's a number of things you might think of. And I wonder if you think of education. I wonder if you think of universities. Firstly, we are a very welcoming country, 52,000 international students from over 180 different countries. So you'll be joining a student body that's very diverse, very multicultural, for a really great learning experience. We do have the highest concentration of universities in Europe. So even though Scotland is maybe smaller than a number of other countries, there's a great higher education system, very focused on students and wanting them to succeed and have a great time and be in a great student environment. We have got about 5 million people in Scotland. So again, the number of universities that we have might surprise you. We're definitely punching above our weight in terms of global rankings and things like that as well. Also, the number of degree combinations that you've got. So professional accreditation for a number of our different degrees, and we've actually seen that 78% of Scottish employers say that they're very satisfied with the work readiness of graduates from our universities across those different degree combinations. So people are very happy with our students, which we're of course very happy about as well. But it is really all about you finding the right course for you, the right university, and the right fit. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Now, these are some of the fit factors that you might be looking at. So things like studying abroad, maybe that's important to you. Will the course involve study abroad? A number of Scottish universities will allow you to do this with an undergraduate degree, some also with postgraduate degrees. So don't think that that's not an option at master's level as well. Of course, you'll be looking into student life. You might have an idea if you would like to be in a city or you would like to be in a town. So have a look at the sizes of these universities and the places that they're located in. Transport links might be important to you as well. We've got great transport links across Scotland, including buses and trains. And some students might have cars, certainly not in St Andrews. It's not really something that you need if you're studying with us. and students can get around using that public transport as best for them. So a number of things for you to look into. I won't spend too much time on this slide, but really just encouraging you to do your research, find out more. And the photos here, if you're wondering, the beach, that's St Andrews. The city at the top with the sort of big church spire, that's Glasgow. And then the photo on the left, that is Aberdeen. So a number of different places for you to choose between. This photo here is from the University of Aberdeen. They've got some great programs in things like game development, and it's really all about preparing you for your future. So you might have a career in mind, and you maybe want to, work in the UK for a while or work in another country, or return home, but your degree will be recognised everywhere, and it will help you with those next steps. As I say, the career centres are there to help you, and you'll learn so much during the degree that will also help you, whether you do want to go into further study, go into academia, or go straight into work. So I'm not going to go through the statistics on this slide because you can see them yourself. But again, just to encourage you to look into the different courses, depending on what maybe your career goals are, and not to worry if you don't know yet what your career goal is. A lot of students will spend time exploring that while they're at university. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Scottish undergraduate degree structure now. I mentioned it earlier, but as I say, it's quite different to the rest of the UK. So when considering your options, it's good to know that this is a 4-year degree. And the reason for that, it's got quite a broad-based study. So you'll be taking subjects outside of your sort of specialist area, the subject that you've applied to. You might pick up maybe 2 other subjects alongside that. And it really allows you to get breadth, to be able to focus on different things as well, and be totally sure that what you're studying is actually what you want to graduate in. Because some people realize that they prefer another subject, something else that they picked up, and they end up transferring to study that degree, and they alter their focus of their degree. So that is maybe something that this degree structure would allow you to do if you're not 100% sure of what you want to graduate in. I'll show you some examples as well in a few slides' time. Now, certain universities, they might allow you to go straight into second year. We call this advanced entry, and that would shorten the degree to 3 years. Now, that depends on the university and the programme, and it will also depend on the grades that you achieve at school. So that's going to be something you'll need to look in for each university specifically. We've already discussed study abroad, but work experience is something else. So again, depending on the degree, there might be options to have work experience built in, or that might be something that career centres will help you with. Many students get internships over the summer. They maybe stay in the UK or get internships elsewhere that we can maybe support you with. But a lot of universities have got great career networks, whether with alumni, with companies who'll come to the university, network with students, meet them, and maybe do career fairs and things like that. So lots of different things for you to explore during your degree. And having that extra year, that 4 years, I would say is a great benefit because the time absolutely flies. So although you think you've got this extra year and you're going to do so many things, it goes so quickly. So really make the most of it. Okay, I'm going to now talk a little bit more about St Andrews specifically. So we've talked a bit about Scotland, but I want to give you more specifics about this degree structure. So on this slide, I'll talk a little bit more, and then I'm going to give you an example. So as you can see here, 4-year degree, and at least at St Andrews, you'll study 3 subjects in the first 2 years. These are sort of the breadth years. The final 2 years, that's when you'll get more of the depth and specialization. That's where you will graduate or focus on the subject you're going to graduate in. So at that point, it's typically one subject you focus on, or if it's a joint degree, you'll split your time 50-50 between those 2 subjects. I also wanted to mention that a number of Scottish universities, particularly the ancient, the older universities, you might see courses called Master of Art. Now, this is equivalent to a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Art, but a number of us do have this different terminology, and it's just because we're older universities and we've kept this terminology. So please don't be confused when you're looking at our websites and you're seeing undergraduate courses that say Masters. They are still Bachelor undergraduate level degrees. Having said that, we do have, some of us, integrated master's programs across some sciences. So that allows you to study your undergraduate degree and your master's degree all together in one. These are typically 5-year degrees because you are combining both levels of study. And if that's something you're interested in, then again, you'll have to check the subjects available on each of our websites across the Scottish universities. But certainly at St Andrews, you've got things like chemistry, computer science, physics. A lot of those core sciences do have integrated master's options. Okay, so in case you're wondering, how does this actually look in practice? How would this look for me? Here's 2 examples for you. So the top student, they're in the Faculty of Arts. They have applied for ancient history. They've decided to pick up Spanish and philosophy, studied that for the first 2 years as well. That third column, where they've done philosophy, they could actually study, a different subject in second year then, but they've decided to stick with philosophy for the first 2 years. And because they've done that, because they've got 2 years of study in those subjects, they've got all the credits that they need, they've actually changed their degree to a joint degree in Spanish and philosophy. So although they applied for ancient history, and that's what they started with, they've now actually changed their degree. And I should say as well, you do get support with this. Universities have got advisors and they will guide you on choosing different subjects, tell you what's possible and what isn't, because there might be timetable clashes, or maybe some subjects you can't pick up due to requisite requirements and things like that. So they'll help you with that. The second example, it's a science student who has studied with biology. In the second year, you'll see they're just doing biology and statistics because they're starting to focus more on what they're actually going to graduate in. They've got a lot of biology that they need to cover there as well. And then in the final 2 years, during their more in-depth focused years, they've actually changed to marine biology specifically. So you might be able to specialize in these very specific areas. It just depends on the course that you are studying. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's all clear to you about the way in which the Scottish degree structure is organised and the way it looks. But if you do have questions, please do let us know. And I can see Mark's answering lots of questions as well that you're asking. So thank you, Mark. Okay, moving on. If anybody here is interested in postgraduate study, so if you're interested in master's degrees, I wanted to touch on this briefly as well. So if you are interested, the University of St Andrews, we've got over 120 different master's degrees, including some online courses as well. And these subjects, there's a broad range of them, but really you're looking at specialization of our undergraduate degrees. Some of them are also conversions. So you might have studied something else at bachelor level and then decided you want to get a master's in a different subject. So some of our degrees will allow you to do that. For example, we've got a conversion psychology degree. And we've got our graduate school with lots of interdisciplinary subjects taught across different schools, different academic areas. So there's a number of things for you to explore. Now, these master's programs, they are typically 1 year, so 12 full months. I know in some other countries you might look at it would be a 2-year course, but in the UK, it's a 1-year master's degree. In terms of how to split your time, you would have September to May, you'd probably have classes. And then over the summer, in May to August, you'll usually be working on a dissertation. It's usually a 15,000 word project that you write over the summer with support from your supervisor. And that allows you to really go into depth on the area of that master's degree that you're really interested in. In terms of teaching styles, you will get traditional lectures, interactive seminars. Class sizes vary depending on the school, but there is a lot of support there as well, just like at undergraduate level. And then if anyone's interested in research degrees, just to highlight that we do, of course, have PhD options as well, typically 3 or 4 years in length. And for this, you'll have to find a supervisor, prospective supervisor at the university before you submit an application. So just to mention that briefly. Okay, so if you've now come to the stage where you think, yes, I would like to apply to either to St Andrews or maybe to other Scottish universities, I'm going to go through the application process now. A few hints and tips on this slide here. So please check deadlines. Please apply early. That really will help you. Although each university will, of course, have a specific deadline, some courses might fill up before that deadline. So sometimes deadlines can be brought forward. And also it's in your best interest to apply, I would say, earlier. Also, so you can focus on your school or your studies, whatever you're also doing during that year. And of course, you can contact Study Experience if you want help with the application process. They'll be able to support you through this. So let's start with an application to a master's program. So this is specifically to St Andrews. Most universities will have a direct application form on their website for masters, and they'll have deadlines for specific programs. For us, a number of them are in August every year. So for example, in August, so last month, a lot of the deadlines for the courses starting right now closed. So, some of our courses have got quite long application windows, but some of them might close earlier in the year, for example, in March or April. So it's really on you to check those deadline dates. Most of our programs also have rolling admission. So that's another reason it's good to apply earlier rather than later, because as I say, they might fill up later in the year because we don't wait for the deadline to pass before we make decisions. So again, please do apply early. Moving on to the next slide, because this gives you an idea of what we look for in a postgraduate taught application. So we'll be looking at transcripts so far. If you are applying for a master's, you might not have finished your undergraduate degree yet, and that's absolutely fine. We'll just look at your grades to date, and we'll want predictions of what your academics, your professors, your tutors think you will achieve when you do finish your final exams. Most of our courses also ask for 2 academic references. Some programs only ask for 1. And then you've got the CV, personal statement, proof of English language proficiency. That's applicable to people who haven't studied their undergraduate degree through the medium of English. So you will need to provide some form of evidence for us of your English language proficiency. So it depends on the program. Please do check the specific program to see exactly what each one is looking for. But this is a general idea of what you might need to prepare in order to submit an application. Let's go back. Okay, so moving on to undergraduate degrees now. And I've got some deadlines here that Mark already shared with you as well. So in terms of deadlines for 2024 entry, if you're applying to medicine, that's an earlier deadline, the 16th of October, so just over a month away now. And if you're applying to any other program, the deadline will be at the end of January 2024. Again, we do have rolling admissions, so it is worth applying before that January date because you would like to avoid the sort of the peak or the big numbers of applications that we always get in just before the deadline. I would always encourage you to apply by November or maybe by December if you can. Just get it in before the new year. Now, as international students, we have no preference between these 3 application forms. Many students will use UCAS because that's the application form that you need to use if you're applying to more than 1 university in the UK. But if we are the only university you're interested in, then you can also use the direct application or the common application form. So it's really up to you. And Mark and his colleagues can support you with making the decision between those application forms and what to use. Now, what do we actually look for? So academic qualifications, we'll be looking at your predicted grades or obtained grades if you've already finished your schooling. Your academic reference, this will usually be provided by a teacher at your school. If you're not sure who that is, then please do ask your school who your reference is, because I would encourage you to work with them, because the personal statement is quite short. You might find that you've run out of room, and you might want your academic reference to include some information in their reference that you haven't been able to fit in that personal statement. So please do work with them on this. Please also don't wait till the last moment, because they do need to submit your application, or it might be, Mark and his colleague at Study Experience submitting the application. So you need to give them enough time to do all the final checks and then actually submit it by all the deadlines. So please don't wait to the last moment. And then the personal statement. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. I'll talk more about this here, but for personal statements, they need to be very academically focused. So at least 75% of that statement should really be about the course that you want to study, your passion for it, and why you're a good fit for it. It could be that you have done some online research about a specific area of that subject. You've maybe watched some online lectures. something you've done through your school that you want to mention, but it's very much personal to you and your interests. So everyone will write this differently and approach this differently, but please make sure that that subject is the focus of this statement. If you're applying for a joint degree, so you want to study 2 subjects, then please don't ignore the other subject. Please make sure that this personal statement covers both of them jointly. You can, as we say here, use examples of what you've done, what you've learned, and just show that you are very motivated. You might also have a look at what you will learn as part of the course that you are applying for, and maybe make it clear that you're very interested in that area of that subject that you would then be studying in the program. I would be a little bit careful about putting a lot of specifics in, because especially if you're applying through UCAS, this one personal statement will be seen by all 5 of your choices. So you certainly don't want to say, you know, I'm applying to the University of St Andrews, because 4 other universities will see that as well. And you probably don't want to say, I'm applying to study marine biology, if you're applying to slightly different courses at each university. So again, you've got to be careful about that if you're using UCAS, and make sure you're not being too specific in there. Make sure that you say what you want to gain from the program, and keep relating everything back to the subject choices. So think, you know, everything you're going to write. So what? Why is that important? Why will that help me and strengthen my application? Because the personal statement really does help us distinguish between applicants. It helps you to stand out from the crowd. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm also just going to scroll back through my slides to go back to the degree, the undergraduate degree slides here. So here we go. I also wanted to explain here. So for example, ancient history, biology, that is the course that you actually apply for. So when you're writing that personal statement, that's what you need to focus on. And you don't need to worry about the other subjects that you'll pick up, because that's what you'll do when you actually arrive at the university. So don't worry about saying anything about other subjects in that personal statement. It should be focused on what you're actually applying for. And I should also mention that medicine is not flexible in this way. So a medicine degree will be 6 years at St Andrews, and you're just studying medicine. And across other universities as well, for example, in dentistry and some other courses, it might also be a very specific degree. So not all of the different courses will allow this level of flexibility. So I wanted to highlight that as well. Okay, I'm going to go back through the slides. I hope that was helpful in terms of how to apply. But of course, if you do have any questions, again, you can reach out to Study Experience, and you've got my email address too. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that in the chat for me. Right, so I've got a few more things I wanted to mention, and then we'll open up to any more questions that you might have. But I wanted to mention student life, because in Scotland, you have got all sorts of things on your doorstep. You've got the mountains. If you're someone who likes to hike and explore, you've got lots of mountains, lots of nature. We have got great facilities across our universities in terms of sports facilities, library facilities, different academic buildings, and then of course lots of different societies and clubs for you to get involved in. Each university will have what we call a Freshers' Week or an Orientation Week. At St Andrews, that's happening this week because our semester has just started this year, and you'll have lots of different give it a go sessions for our sports teams, a fair to go and find out about all the different societies. You're very much part of that student community and that experience. I also wanted to mention a number of students will get part-time work, so you might want to look into that. Certainly at St Andrews, there are local part-time opportunities in restaurants or in tourist or tourism and shops, and maybe something to do with the golf, because golf is very big in St Andrews. So there are opportunities for that as well. But if you are coming to the UK on a visa, you'll just need to be careful about the hours that you're working during term time, because there will be some restrictions. But certainly outside of term time, during the vacation period, you can work as many hours as you like. So at that point, a lot of students might get longer internships, either in Scotland or maybe going down to London or other parts of the UK. So you can fit a lot into this 4-year degree, or of course, if it's a master's, into your 1-year degree. Lots of things to get involved in terms of your student life, and you can shape what you'd like to do. Okay, so what can you expect? Well, the first thing to mention is accommodation. Now, this will be different at different universities, but at St Andrews, our first year undergraduate students are guaranteed accommodation as long as they apply by the 30th of June in the year that they're going to start their studies. And as soon as you accept an offer, at that point, you can apply for accommodation. Even if you haven't got your final exam results yet, your offer is conditional, still make sure that you apply. You've got 2 photos here. You've got St Salvator's Hall, you've got David Russell Apartments as well. So there's different kinds of options that you can apply for, and you can list your preferences. So for example, if you would like to have a shared bathroom and catered where meals are cooked for you and you go to a dining hall to eat, then you'll list that higher in your preferences when you submit your application for accommodation. And this is a great way to meet people as well, because you will meet people while you're eating dinner, and there'll be inter-hall sport competitions, there'll be various events happening in these halls. So another way for you to get involved in that student community. After first year, accommodation isn't guaranteed with the university, so a lot of people will move into private housing around St Andrews with their friends. Now, at master's level, we do have this overseas postgraduate taught student guarantee. So as long as you apply by the 30th of June, and if you're covered by that guarantee, then again, you will receive place in one of our halls of residence. We do have specific postgraduate halls, and we've got some, like David Russell Apartments, where we've got specific postgraduate flats within those buildings. So lots of options again. You can choose specific options. And some people actually would prefer to rent privately. They don't want to go back into university housing. So that choice is yours, but you can apply if you are interested in living in university halls again. And I've only got a few slides left, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time on clubs and societies because it is such a big part of the university experience. As I say, lots of Scottish universities will have different clubs for you to get involved in. Certainly at St Andrews, there's over 180. They do involve things like the Debating Society, which is the oldest in the UK. You've got the Disney group. You've got various groups that are based on future professions. If you're interested in going into law, or you're interested in economics or management, then there's areas like that that you can look at for your clubs. You can also start your own club if there isn't one already and you think something's missing. And then there's also clubs that are based around countries or languages. So for example, there's a French society, there's a German society, lots of different societies that you can join as well. And then sports, we've got more than 50 sports on offer, 100 different teams. Some of them are competitive. You can compete against different universities, and some of them are just for fun. So it's really up to you how much you would like to get involved in these things. You can shape the experience that you would like to have. This is a photo of our indoor tennis courts. We've got great facilities, and a number of other universities, of course, will have similar facilities for their students. Last thing to mention here, support networks. So we do have professional developments. We've got lecture series happening throughout the year, different workshops that you can go to if you want to perfect your presentation skills, or you want to work on your Excel skills, whatever it might be. There are ways for you to develop these things. And of course, if you ever need help, you want to talk to someone about your well-being, you want to talk about money, you want to talk about being an international student and setting up bank accounts, whatever it might be, there is lots of help for you. As I say, every year we get lots of students coming to our universities, so there are very good systems in place to support them. Okay, and how else can you engage with us? Well, thank you very much for coming to the session today, firstly, and listening to me. If you want to continue to find out more about St Andrews or other universities, you can, of course, browse our websites, find our courses, go and ask our students questions too. We've got an inquiry form on our website, so you can submit questions to students, find out more about their experience. There are virtual visiting days, but there's also in-person opportunities. So if you are coming through to the UK for any reason, please come up to St Andrews. We've got talk and tours throughout the year, and you can always come into the admissions building when we're open and ask questions to us there as well. We've also got other virtual events, so you can look at our website, book onto those as you're interested. And then, of course, that's the admissions email address. So you can always contact us if you've got any further questions. And speaking of questions, my final slide, I'm passing over to everyone here to see if there are any questions from you that you would like to ask before we finish the session today. I can see, Mark, you've been answering lots of things. Is there anything that you'd
I've
like
got
me
cramp
to...
in my fingers now, Fionn.
Is there anything you'd like me to help with?
Well, I mean, I guess some of the questions asked could interest a few people, I imagine. I think maybe you did talk about entry requirements, Fionn. I
Yes,
don't know if
let's
you
cover
have
that.
specific maybe sort of grades to give for a French audience. So, for instance, to access an undergraduate program at St Andrews,
Yes,
do you have
absolutely.
a rough
Yes.
idea of what a student would need to achieve on the baccalaureate?
Yes, good question. Thank you. So for the French baccalaureate, for the general bac, our entrance requirement is 16 overall. And then if a course, for example, maths has got a requirement, so in order to apply for maths, we would need you to be studying maths as a specialty subject in the final 2 years, and then we'd be asking for 17 in that subject. So some of our courses have got specific prerequisites of subjects you need to be taking it at specialty level through the final 2 years. So they'll specify that on the website. If anyone's taking the BFI, so the new, no longer option international, but the BFI, that would be 15 overall, and it would then be 16 in any required subjects at specialist level in the final 2 years. So hopefully that helps everyone in terms of what we're looking for with our requirements.
There was a question about medicine specifically.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I don't know if you want to touch on that. Presumably, I mean, the entry requirements will be high, and it's more than just grades, right? You're looking for a number of things.
Yeah, that's true. I'll find the link as well, and I'll pop it in the chat for everyone. But yes, so with medicine, it's not just your academic or your school grades, it's also the UCAT exam. So we ask people to sit the UCAT exam, usually the summer before you apply. That's when you'll do it. I often get asked, what's the cutoff? You know, what's the UCAT score that you're looking for? And basically each year it will depend on how everyone did. So once everyone's applied, we will then check all of the UCAT scores, and then we will decide where our sort of cutoff is, what we're looking for. But to give you an idea, in previous years, it was about 2,400 that we were looking for in the UCAT. We'll also rank everyone, and the top sort of 400 people will invite them to an interview. And this is an MMI style interview. So a number of questions or tasks back to back that we would expect you to complete. So there are a few different stages to a medicine application, and that's one of the reasons why the deadline is so much earlier, because you've got interviews to sit as well. So please do be prepared to be invited for interview if you are applying to medicine. And I found the link, so I'm going to pop this link in the chat as well for everyone. This is to our medicine program, and it's quite good here as well because there's a section where it says what we're looking for. So you can see there when it talks about work experience, because for medicine especially, they are looking that you've had some kind of experience. It doesn't need to be shadowing a doctor or a nurse in a hospital. It might be maybe volunteering in a care home, but just something in a care setting that you can then discuss in the personal statement. And you can also see the specific French bac requirements. So I failed to mention earlier that the chemistry, physics course speciality and also maths or biology need to be taken as specialist subjects. So there's some specific sciences that you'll need to make sure you've got at the right level. But yeah, good to see interested in medicine as well. Thank you very much for that. I should mention, I promise this is the last thing about medicine for anyone who's not looking at this program, but at St Andrews, we spend the first 3 years in St Andrews, our medics, and then the final 3 years of the program are spent at one of our partner universities. So across Scotland, partner universities include Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, and that's it. And Aberdeen. And then our students who go down to England will typically go to Manchester, although we do have a few places at Barts in London. So when you apply, you can either choose the Scottish route, the English route, or no preference if you don't mind. And that's me. That's all about medicine. Awesome. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, great. And we've got quite an eclectic bunch, I think, today. There are
Nice.
questions about master's levels. You'll be happy to know,
Okay.
Fiona. Masters as
Excellent.
well. And actually, yeah, we didn't talk about grades for master's level. Do you know what kind of licence
Yes.
grades you need?
Yes. So we're looking for a minimum of 12, or as is Bian, if I pronounce that correctly. But yeah, 12 is what we'd be looking for our master's level.
And can you confirm that a student with a 3-year bachelor degree would access a master's, even if
Yes.
the undergraduate is 4 years in Scotland?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Someone interested in doing, I told you, but this is my fault, Fionn. I told you not to talk about research programs, and we've got someone who wants to do, so I'll take responsibility for that. Someone would like to know what they need to do to apply for a doctorate, a PhD in economics.
Yes, good question. So the first thing you need to do is go onto our economics webpage and look at our staff. And they're all listed there. You'll be able to see their specializations and what their research is in. And you'll need to identify someone who would be willing basically to support your PhD. So typically someone whose research is based or is in an area that you're interested in doing your PhD in. So that's the first step. Once you've found someone who is willing to be your supervisor and support you, you can then submit an application form. But it's all very much goes through our School of Economics. So that's something that our academic colleagues will manage. So that's your first step. And yeah, and that's the process, really. I hope that's helpful. If you are struggling to find the correct colleagues, if you're struggling to navigate our website, then just get in touch with us and we can give you the right links so that you know where to go to find that.
Okie dokes. Someone missed what you said about undergraduate entry requirements for business, specific grades and subject requirements.
Yes. So for that area, if you're doing the French Baccalaureate General, it would be 16 overall. There are no specific subjects that you need at specialty level for our management programs. No, could be maths? Any subjects, no maths.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a good reminder as well, that each university will have different requirements. So you need to check us all.
Okay. Someone asked about tuition fees. I've sent the link over. You can see in the chat.
Thank you.
All the information on tuition. Are there any scholarships that we should know about?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes, we do have scholarships internally at the university every year. Once you apply to a program, you can then apply for scholarships. So you don't need to wait to receive an offer. You can just get started with that. Most of our scholarships are based on either financial need or academic excellence. So we've usually got an international excellence scholarship, which would cover tuition fees. And then we've got smaller scholarships called the International Undergraduate Scholarships that might be, maybe £5,000 to £10,000 each year. So they're smaller. The website will be updated in the next couple of weeks with the scholarships that we've got available for 2024 entry. So at that point, you'll see all of the offerings for next year. And you can basically find the application forms from there as well. Master's level too, there's specific master's level scholarships as well. So please do have a look at all of those. And then, of course, if there's any external funding options that you can find locally to you. I know the British Council often have lists of scholarships that might be applicable, but certainly come to us as well if you're worried about money or need a bit of guidance.
Okay, so I've got a question. I think it's specific to postgraduate business.
Okay.
Well, actually, the first question they asked was if the business school at St. Andrews is any good. It's a provocative question.
I'm going to say yes.
That's awful. But you might want to develop on that, and also in the context of an application, how important, I suppose, is the GMAT? Is it more important? Is the GMAT more important than the overall grades on the licence, or maybe it can compensate for certain grades? I don't know. What would be your thoughts on that?
So we actually don't ask for the GMAT, so we would not expect you to have it. So our decisions will be really based on your undergraduate degree, and then depending on the specific course, on the personal statement. Some courses will ask for some written work. So it depends on the program. But yeah, the GMAT's not required, so please don't worry about that. And then in
It
terms
would
of
be a
the
plus to do it, even if it's not a requirement, if you provide
no,
it.
it's not really it's not really
plus.
something that our
Okay.
academics would look at. So I wouldn't submit that. I wouldn't add that, to be honest. And then for your other question about our business school, so our business school is launching for 2024 entry. At the moment, we have got separate schools for management, economics, and finance, and they're combining to become our business school. It's just a change of title, and they're also getting a new building in town as well that will be built in the coming years. But yes, our business school is great. We've got a number of different programs across economics and finance, management, international business, marketing. So depending on what exactly you're interested in, you can find very specific, very niche programs to suit you. Within that as well, there are extracurricular master's development courses that you can take, which will help you with your next steps as well. And also, I should mention, for those of you who want to go into management or that area, not all of our programs expect you to have studied this at undergraduate level. So some of them are what we call conversion degrees, where you can actually come in having studied a different subject as an undergraduate, and then apply to study something from our management programs. So hopefully that's helpful. You can find the full list on our website. You will see that our master's courses are quite specific in terms of specialization of what they focus on.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've covered. If there are any, si vous avez des dernières petites questions, n'hésitez pas à les poser dans le chat. Vous pouvez lever la main aussi. Je vous active le micro. Hein, if you wanted to ask a question out loud, I can activate your mics. Just give it a minute. I think we've covered everything. That was very comprehensive. I feel.
Oh,
Patting
brilliant.
ourselves on the back there.
We did such a great job.
Yeah, we're so good.
Brilliant. Well, thanks everyone for coming and asking lots of questions. It's always lovely to get lots of questions in the chat. So thank you everyone. And thanks Mark for having us and hosting this as well.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time. Merci à tous d'avoir participé à ce webinaire. On espère que vous l'aurez trouvé utile. Et évidemment, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter par email par la suite. On vous répondra toujours très rapidement. Voilà. Et n'hésitez pas aussi à venir nous voir au salon Elevate, donc 23, 27 et 30 septembre, Paris, Vannes, Bruxelles. Voilà, si jamais c'est à côté de chez vous, je vous recommande de venir. C'est vraiment un salon qui est très sympa. Voilà. Thank you. Merci et bonne soirée.
Thank you. Bye.